Usuki Masato is your average wannabe cool teenager who hates his mom for no reason. Following some weird circumstances, Masato and his mother get teleported inside an RPG game where they have to deepen their relationship in order to get out. Inside the game, he hires two cute girls to show off his sword skills. All of this starts as Masato is filling out a questionnaire regarding his relationship with his mother. He labels most of the questions as average or even below average, just like my taste in women. In the meantime, his mother is preparing dinner as she asks him about his school. But Masato completely ignores her, just like my crush ignores me in college. She tries to sneak a peek at the questionnaire, but Masato stops her and quickly completes it himself. The next day, a quirky woman named Shiraise, meaning to inform, pays them a visit. She proudly shares that students used to tease her about her name, which inspired her to turn it into a career. Shiraise then asks Masato if he'd like to enter the world of a video game, and he eagerly agrees. She types some strange code into his computer, and when she hits enter, the screen starts glowing. Suddenly, Masato is pulled into the game, leaving his mother and everything else behind. As he lands in the game, Masato is thrilled to realize he's inside a real virtual world. However, his excitement quickly fades when his mother appears beside him, clearly delighted to embark on adventures with him. After this, they reach the teleportation palace where they come across the king who registers Masato and his mother in the game. Being a dumb teenager, Masato accidentally registers himself with his real name. The king also assigns them classes, and Masato's class is Normal Hero, which basically means that he's a Sakura cosplayer and not expected to achieve anything. Masato also figures out that he was chosen because he mentioned his name in that questionnaire. Unlike Masato, his mom is not that adept at games, and it seems like her brain is not as big as her melons. With no other choice, the king gives them a guidebook and leads them to a room filled with swords. As expected, Masato picks out the flashiest one. His mom, on the other hand, decides to take the remaining two swords, claiming one might get lonely without the other. Now armed with their swords, they get a chance to test them on some monsters. Masato is stunned when his mom's sword skills turn out to be insanely powerful, wiping out all the monsters in a single strike. Meanwhile, Masato struggles to show off his own skills, leaving him frustrated. He ends up snapping at his mom, which makes her tear up. Realizing his mistake, Masato quickly apologizes and agrees to go on the adventure with her. With this, their adventure truly begins as they teleport to the kingdom of Mamamlia. As they are wandering around the city, Masato's overpowered mom pulls out the guidebook from her melons because she wants to impress her son. Just as they reach the Adventurers Guild, Mom utilizes her sword-handling skills to get rid of all the adventurers in that area, as she read it in the guidebook. Despite this massive attack, the front desk woman Shiraise is still alive as she greets them and guides them about forming a party. After taking a thorough look at all the candidates, Masato picks out 3 random girls to show off his massive sword. His mother also realizes this and decides to interview them first. Much to Masato's surprise, his mom rejects all of the girls because she believes that they cannot handle her son's sword. The only girl that manages to impress her is Porta, a loli who can carry stuff around and might prove to be a burden. After this, Masato comes across a candidate named Wise who threatens them to choose her. Masato realizes that even though her abilities are great, her personality seems to be trash and discards her. However, no matter how hard he tries, he can't get rid of the paper. Suddenly, the paper transforms, revealing Wise herself, who teleports Masato to a remote wilderness in an attempt to get her revenge. Masato, strangely enough, doesn't seem to mind. He even lets Wise step on his face just for the chance to sneak a peek at her panties. After some banter and sarcastic remarks, Masato realizes that Wise has all the classic traits of a tsundere. Curious about her motives, he invites her to sit beside him to chat. Wise explains that this entire game world is designed to help restore the bond between parents and children. She hints that she has her own issues with her mother, which likely mirrors the game's objectives. Her ultimate goal is to join Masato's party, so that together they might be able to find a way out of the game's world and back to reality. Meanwhile, Masato's mom is hot on his trail, using her sword's powers to track him down. Along the way, she even unlocks a unique skill that makes her seem even more powerful than before. When she finds them, Wise ends up temporarily locked up for her use of violence against Masato, as he insists she should try to reconcile with her own mother if they're going to work together. Though Wise stubbornly refuses, they realize they need her skills and ultimately agree to let her join the party. With an unlikely truce in place, they set off together, the awkward new dynamics making this adventure anything but ordinary. Now that they have formed their own party, it is time to hunt down some monsters. As soon as they reach a dungeon, Masato's mom falls into it with Masato and Wise grabbing her melons to save her. Inside the dungeon, Masato realizes that Wise is also quite useless, just like him since she cannot use light magic. But things get better as Mom starts glowing out of the blue and lights up the entire dungeon. After some time, they reach a massive courtyard where they come across a horde of slimes. Wise volunteers to get rid of them, but gets humiliated as they seal her magic. In the end, Mom has to interfere and get rid of all the slimes. But it is not over since more slimes appear from the ceiling. Wise once again gets humiliated by the slimes and loses her magic. The slimes merge themselves into a massive slime and ambush them. Seeing that his mother is in danger, Masato saves her from the attack, but gets immersed in slime. As he is laying on his mother, her clothes start disappearing and Masato accidentally falls on her melons. He attempts to get up, but fails, and he keeps falling on them. Even his mom is enjoying this as she makes some happy noises. In the meantime, Wise regains her abilities and attacks the slime. But her attacks prove useless, just like herself. In the end, Naked Mom has to take care of the massive slime with her sword-handling abilities. Porta covers Mom with an apron that covers her melons to some extent. Just as they believe that they have defeated the monster, a coffin appears out of nowhere with a dead Shurace look-alike inside it. Wise revives the cheap Shurace copy, who informs them about a special quest in a farming village. With no other option, Masato and the others accept this quest, and now it's time to gather some equipment. Mom, however, doesn't seem quite interested in buying equipment as she gathers some vegetables and eggs to prepare food. After breakfast, they head to the market to pick up some armor. The shopkeeper presents an armor piece that's essentially a metal bikini, but Masato's mom is determined to try it on anyway. She keeps selecting ridiculous armors, with Masato rejecting each one. Finally, she spots a healing robe that she technically can't wear due to her class, but insists on trying it on just the same. Curious about what happens if someone wears equipment meant for another class, Masato begins to speculate, only to hear his mom suddenly scream. Rushing to her aid, he opens the door and finds her struggling to take off the robe, standing there in her underwear. After this ordeal, they eventually manage to get themselves proper equipment. Masato, however, can't hide his frustration and scolds his mother for being so immature. Upset, she begins to cry, prompting Wise and Porta to pressure Masato into apologizing. To make amends, she suggests cleaning Masato's ears. Though he hesitates at first, he ultimately agrees, bringing them to an uneasy truce. Now that they have buried the hatchet, all of them head towards the village for their quest. Upon reaching there, the village chief informs them about the Empress of Night and how she demands handsome men to quench her thirst. Hearing this, Masato realizes that they want to offer him to the Empress and save themselves. But now that they have accepted the quest, they cannot leave the village. After all this, Masato decides to enjoy some alone time in the hot spring. But surprisingly, his mom also joins him. Suddenly, she holds his face against her melons to show him heaven. In the meantime, Porta and Wise also join him in the pool. In the hot spring, they come up with a strategy to defeat the Empress even though they have no information on her. In all this, Wise gets agitated over something and accidentally shows Masato her small melons. But instead of sending him flying, she decides to forgive him even though it is against the Tsundere guidelines. In the meantime, the Empress of Night gets warned by Shurace that she is disturbing the nature of the game, and they have to remove her from the game. But much to her surprise, she fails to eliminate her. In her ending moments, she informs her that Wise is also present in this area, but she doesn't even care about her.
It's all fine, don't worry about it.
Stating that the handsome guys she has seduced are the kids she always wanted. In the middle of everything, Masato is changing his clothes when Wise suggests they go for a walk together. Masato instantly senses some tension between Wise and the Empress of Night. Before he can question her, Wise rushes off, and as Masato tries to catch up, he stumbles and falls on top of her. landing in a rather compromising position. This leads his mom to wonder if they're dating and suggests they take things slowly. After this awkward moment, Masato presses Wise to open up about her family situation and how her mother tricked her into joining the game. Wise reveals her resentment, confessing that she despises her mother and has no intention of reconciling. Moved by Wise's words, Masato's mom embraces her, expressing the importance of family and urging her to reconsider. This heartfelt moment softens Wise, and she begins to consider the possibility of mending her relationship with her mother.